me. Tissue necrosis.
I know what's gonna happen to me.
You seen this man?
I hadn't seen him.
Are you sure? Social contract goes both ways.
What does that mean?
You help me with one of my problems, I help you with one of your own.
What makes you think I got a problem?
We all have problems.
But where I'm going, where my wife is, it is safe. You give me my family and I will take care of yours.
You knew my name. And now you know hers?
I used to be one of her rangers.
Oh, no.
Got bit coming back in here the first time. Before I went looking for the gun. It wasn't about getting me back here, Morgan. It was about getting you here.
I can't.
Welcome, everyone, to Dead Talk Live. I'm your host, Viz, from Walking Dead Now, and it is my honor today to welcome our very special guest, Michael Abbott Jr., who we all know from the premiere of Season 6 of Fear the Walking Dead as Isaac. Michael, welcome. Thank you for being here with us tonight. Before we get started, I just want to say congratulations on a kick-ass job you did on that episode, man. How you doing?
Oh, thanks, Viz. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you for your kind words about the episode.
It was amazing. It was amazing. And I was just floored after the way we connected was I posted I was just so amazed at that episode, and you contacted me on Instagram. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, I got to get you on the show, and here we are. And I'm just so grateful that you're here. So let's just go ahead and get started with this. Now, the time frame when that premiere was shot, I'm assuming was around a year ago. Am I correct?
That's correct. We were actually shooting this week last year. So I think I finished. I came and went from Texas, I think 3 times. And the last time I was there was right before Thanksgiving. So, but this was a week that we were shooting because I left Texas and I came home and trick-or-treated with my family just in time to get back to New York. But yeah, it was incredible. And it's crazy talking about an episode that you shot so long ago. It's, you know, I was thinking earlier today, I was like, oh, what are some interesting things I can say? And, you know, it's been so long. I feel like between the quarantine and all the other crazy things happening in the world, it feels more like 35 years ago that I shot this thing. But
so much has happened.
Exactly. And to go for so long and not be able to tell anyone that I had shot it, just because they're so strict about you know, not wanting any information get out. So it was nice to finally be able to tell people what the hell it was I was doing and when it was going to air.
That's great. And did you guys, I know they give 9 days, The Walking Dead does, for premieres, mid-season premieres, finale. Were you guys able to finish the shooting on time in the 9 days allotted for that premiere to shoot?
We were, yes. It was, I think it was the only episode of the season that they were able to finish completely before the S kind of hit the fan in this country. So yeah, I'm pretty sure everything was in the can before things kind of shut down.
Okay. So going into this role, were you at all familiar with the Walking Dead franchise?
You know, to be honest, I wasn't. I mean, I obviously knew about it. I knew how popular it was. I knew it had a huge fan base. I knew it was a highly rated show. You know, it's weird. I've been doing a lot of press for a film I have coming out the 6th of November.
We're going to talk about
a horror film.
We're going to talk about that.
Right. But that's a horror film, and this I feel like kind of fits into the same vein. And I've always kind of not been drawn to this type of material for no other reason that it freaks me out. It scares me. Zombies scare me, and I go to sleep and I have nightmares like a 6-year-old. And so, in terms of entertainment, it's not something that I'm drawn to. But in terms of an acting job, it was something I was certainly drawn to, just because I knew the popularity, I knew the success around the franchise, and the opportunity to work with Michael, I was super stoked about, and Lenny James. When I knew I was going to be working with Lenny, it was a no-brainer. He's absolutely fantastic.
Now, did they explain to you going into this season, not having watched previous seasons, that they're going to be doing this differently, more like an episode by episode anthology, or they didn't? Did they explain that to you? Did they explain?
Michael and I had a talk before I arrived in Texas, and he kind of filled me in as much as he could, and basically he did explain, we're going for a new structure. And the way that he kind of put it to me was, we're going to be making mini movies. And I think that's really what they're focusing on in season 6, as opposed to following a large group and a lot of character threads, so on and so forth. They really wanted to narrow in on these specific characters and follow through a story arc, as opposed to having to jump around so much. And seeing the final product, I think they were tremendously successful in terms of making it feel as though it was its own movie, because I think it could be just as entertaining by itself, even if you don't know backstory.
Absolutely. And I was a little like, wow, okay, they're doing, before the season started, I'm like, this anthology episode by episode, I'm like, let's see. But we're only 3 episodes in, and it's absolutely amazing what they've done with this season. 3 episodes, they're all great, but the premiere is by far my favorite so far that I've seen of this season. Now, did you know going in that Isaac was only going to last for 1 episode?
You know what? I knew about as much as the audience did. And funny enough, I had actually auditioned for Emil. And that was the scene that I had taped and sent in. And the producer saw the tape, the director saw the tape. And I was actually cast as Isaac through the audition for Emil. And I certainly think they made the right choice, because Demetrius played a much a better bounty hunter than I probably ever could. He swung that axe with such commitment.
Demetrius Gross and Lenny James, with your characters, it was magic on the screen.
Well, it certainly felt like that on set. There was a pretty quick bond there, especially with Demetrius. I spent a lot of time with him. Lenny spent hours and hours in the makeup chair, and so I actually had less time offset with him than I did Demetrius. But it was pretty surreal to sit around and look at zombies checking their Facebook and wondering why we were in an abandoned rock quarry in the middle of nowhere, Texas. As an actor, there are times in your life where you kind of sit back and you go, what the hell am I doing? Why I certainly glad I didn't decide to be a doctor, but we're paid to pretend, and I think that's the absolute most exciting job on earth.
It's fun. It sounds like so much fun. So when did you find out that Isaac was going to come in and go in 1 episode? When was that actually explained to you?
Honestly, I think it was about a week and a half before I left for Texas. I remember having to memorize lines faster than what I'm normally used to on a project. But even there were several scenes that I wasn't even privy to until I arrived in Texas. I mean, you talk about top secret material. The scripts for these shows are hard to come by. I think I probably could have auctioned that thing off for a lot more money than I made doing the show, but I would never do that.
No, no. And it's the same with all three shows, man. It's the whole Walking Dead franchise. They are very good at keeping things under wraps. In fact, I remember Lenny James on an interview saying when they were actually bringing him back to the original show after 5 years, he was like incognito in disguise going into the hotel. They wanted nobody spotting him on the road and so on. So walk us through that audition process to when it started to when you were told you got the part.
When I was told I got the part, I think it was shortly after that. Well, I was told I got the part. You got the part of Isaac, and I was like, but wait, that's not who I auditioned for. Who the hell's Isaac? So I think they sent me a character breakdown. I got the first scene, which was right outside of the thrift shop where I find Morgan and get him inside to safety. That was the first scene I read, and then. I'm trying to think. I think I only had 2 or 3 scenes in my hand in physical script form before I left for Texas, and it wasn't until I got there that I got the rest of the script, and I knew instantly that that Isaac was not going to make it through the end of the episode, but it was structured in such a way that I knew it would be exciting because I knew that people would think that he was going to make it. And to me that's what movie making and making television is all about. You want your audience to think a certain way and then pull the rug out from under them. So I think they were certainly successful in that vein.
Absolutely. So the turnaround time from the time you were told you got the part to when you were on a plane to Texas must have been very short.
It was probably around 8 to 10 days. It wasn't very long at all. And I was lucky because I had long hair and a full beard at the time, and I was going to do another project that required me to have a short hair and clean shaven. And we got the call that I booked Fear just in time to catch me to not cut my hair and shave my beard, because they probably would have recast me, because it's all about the hair and the beard, really.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what comes out of your mouth. But no, it was a pretty quick turnaround.
So you touched on this earlier, knowing that you were coming into such a huge franchise. Did that add an extra stressor to you in your preparation for the role?
Not really an added stressor. I think the only added stress was not being able to tell people where I was and what I was doing. I mean, they knew I was out of town working on a project, but no, I mean, I take stresses like that and I try to put them into the performance as much as I can. Obviously, I think the biggest stress was the fact that this was a season premiere of a show that they were totally revamping the structure on. Yeah. And I think that within itself comes a lot of responsibility. But you as an actor, you trust the work that you've done at the table by yourself. And then when you go on set, you have to just trust that you've done all the work and that you're there to live in the moment and to live truthfully. And if you do those things, if you buy into those given circumstances, then hopefully your audience will take that journey with you.
Excellent. Now, going back to that secretive thing, this is out of my own curiosity. When you say you can't tell anybody, let's say, you have a wife or a husband, kids, you can't even tell them like what you're doing.
Well,
I mean, there has to be some line, right?
There are people within your bubble that you can tell, but those are people that you have to trust
and vouch
with
for
everything that you have. Yeah, because I have heard of people letting things slip, and they end up in big court cases and sued for lots and lots of money. I mean, these are huge budget productions. So, there's a lot on the line for them. And as an actor, it's your responsibility to uphold your end of the deal.
Gotcha. Now that it's, filmed, aired, you can finally talk about it. And that episode being such a huge success, my opinion, a lot of viewers' opinion, the best episode to fear. And I will take it even a step further. I will put it in my top 5 or 10 of the Walking Dead universe episodes combined. Okay?
Wow.
How does that make you feel of being such a big part of such a big episode in such a huge franchise?
Well, it's, it feels great. Obviously going into it, I knew the show had a huge following. It's such devoted fans. And once the episode aired, I think we were a little floored by the feedback on social media in regards to this character, Isaac. And people were like, oh, we were so bummed he died. And is there any way he can come back? Someone even wrote me and was like, maybe you can come back as Isaac's twin brother and raise the baby as your own. And I'm thinking, hey man, you need to find the producers and give them
don't tell me. You're telling the wrong person.
Yeah, exactly. I've got zero stake in the game. I've got zero say when it comes to that stuff. But I consider it a tremendous honor and certainly a highlight of my television career thus far.
So let's get into Isaac's character a little more. Okay, now he was part of Virginia's Pioneers, Ranger, to be exact. Mm-hmm. Not knowing exactly the background of the story, but when they told you when you were reading the character's background, he was somebody that fled from the show's main antagonist. Did that go into the preparation? How did you try to play that into how you were going to portray Isaac on the screen?
Well, I knew that the stakes were high for this guy. He had a wife and his wife was pregnant. And I can think of no other thing in the world that will catapult your stakes to the highest caliber, except for when you find out that you're about to have a child.
Absolutely.
So I knew that Isaac was in this fight or flight mindset, and I knew that he was the type of guy, having been a former Marine. I knew that he was the type of guy who would do whatever he had to do in order to save his family. And so I certainly went into it with that mindset that no hill was too high, no mountain was too high. He would have done whatever he had to do in order to see his family through to the other side.
Totally understand that. Now, when I was watching this episode, for me, it wasn't just you, Lenny, Demetrius. It was you, Lenny, Demetrius, and Michael Satrazemis working together. I mean, even though Michael was behind the camera, I could feel his presence in every scene that he was shooting. Describe your experience working with Michael Satrazemis behind the camera.
Michael is someone that I keep in touch with to this day. I have such respect and admiration for his work ethic and for the way that he communicates with actors. A lot of times, I've worked on projects where I've had no one-on-one with the director, and as actors, you're already paranoid as hell that you're not giving them what they want, or they're not getting out of you what they thought you could bring to the table, and that's really disheartening because it takes everyone behind the camera and in front of the camera to make this thing work, and you have to feel like you're a part of a unit, feel like you're a part of a team, a cavalry. And Michael was, from the moment I landed in Texas, we had a sit down in his office and we talked about the backstory of Michael and how he fit into this story. or the vaccine of Isaac. I'm
Isaac.
sorry. Oh, we talked about a little bit of the backstory of Michael too, but we won't go into that. No, but the fact that he was so willing to answer any questions, provide any insight. He knew that I had limited knowledge to this world, so he was a tremendous resource in terms of any questions I had that would help deepen this character. But Michael's fantastic. And talk about a guy who worked his way from, I don't want to say the bottom, because a cameraman is certainly nowhere near the bottom, but worked his way through the ranks at that franchise. His work ethic certainly paved the way for he certainly has a reputation amongst the cast and crew.
And like he said, he's been with the show since the very beginning, 11 years now. Started out as a camera operator, worked his way up to director, now executive producer of Fear the Walking Dead. So when you guys are shooting a particular scene, you just explained how great he is on giving you the backstory. And trust me, there is no better person to give you the backstory on The Walking Dead than Michael Satrazemis.
Right.
And when you guys are shooting a scene, he makes you feel comfortable from behind the camera as to clearly describing to you how he's envisioning this scene playing out.
Yeah, I mean, a very clear vision from before we even step in front of the camera. I remember having conversations with him, and his mind works so much faster than I feel like a normal human mind works, that it's almost like watching a movie when you're talking to him. And I think that's why this structure is going to work so well this season, especially with the first episode. Because he knows exactly what he wants to see. He knows what beats are most important. He knows all of the shot. I mean, the dude does his prep work, and it certainly shows.
Yeah, I know. I could totally agree with you on that one. So let's talk about a little bit about Lenny James. You said you didn't get to spend much time with him off camera because he was in the makeup chair with the red eyes. We saw him totally disheveled in the first episode. What was it like working with Lenny on camera? As far as, I mean, his presence on the screen when you guys were sharing those scenes. Describe that for us.
You know, obviously Lenny is an incredible actor and very well trained and knows exactly who his character is. You know, I think he spent a lot of that time in the makeup chair, getting into that world and preparing for whatever scene he was about to shoot. But then when we got on set and between takes, we would have a little small talk, and even when the cameras were rolling, it didn't feel like we were acting in a scene, which, you know, as an actor, that's kind of what you're shooting for. You want to feel like you're having natural conversations. And I always felt like that. I never felt like there was any kind of disconnect. I always felt like, you know, we were talking and listening to each other. And I felt like the camaraderie, because we were able to, for the most part, shoot chronologically, with the exception of a couple of scenes. So we were able to build that camaraderie throughout, that I think kind of gave the end a little oomph that you wouldn't necessarily get if you didn't have that connection with who you're acting opposite.
Gotcha.
But just a very sweet guy, you know, very soft spoken. But you know, when Lenny James arrives on set, it's showtime.
Now, you, Lenny James, Demetrius, veteran actors, okay? You guys have been doing this for a long while. Do you personally, like when you're working with another veteran actor, find yourself observing their methods, trying to always learn new stuff, maybe even ask them for advice? Or did you see any of them do the vice versa with you and so on?
You know, I certainly love to be a spectator. I certainly love observation. I tend to, and this is probably a weird attribute that I have, but I spend a lot of time observing actors when they're quiet, when they're not saying anything at all, because I find that I'm drawn to the eyes on screen more so than anything else. What's going on in the eyes to me is so much more captivating than what's coming out of the mouth. And I'm sure there have probably been actors that are like, I think that guy was into me. But I feel like I just spend a lot of time looking in actors' eyes and trying to think about what they're thinking about, where they are in their head. And but yeah, does that answer your question? It's kind of a weird answer.
No, that's exactly what I was looking for, because I'm looking, everybody's different, everybody's unique, and I wanted to hear your take on when you observe other actors, especially veteran actors, to see if you can always learn, because we're always learning, no matter what your profession you're in. Now, by the end of that episode, Killer Morgan is back. That's what we like to call him, because Morgan throughout the years has had his ups, his downs. Life is precious, Morgan, to if you're walking, I'm going to kill you, Morgan. Now, not having watched the show before, I have mentioned to my viewers that the Morgan that we got at the end of this episode is a much wiser Morgan, taking his experiences from the past on how he would really oscillate from one extreme to another. Did you see either Michael Satrazemis and Lenny talking about that, or Lenny talking to you about that, how this is going to be a different Morgan that we have seen in prior episodes of The Walking Dead?
No, those weren't conversations that I was privy to. I'm certain that they happened, and they might have happened long before I even arrived to town. Michael and Lenny certainly have their own form of communication, and they will, you'll see them go off and talk together. But no, it wasn't something that I was privy to, nor would it have affected anything that I was bringing to the table, because Michael Abbott Jr. and Isaac both met Morgan at the same time, so that's the Morgan that we knew from the get-go.
Gotcha.
All that Isaac knew was that Morgan was the only piece of hope that he and his family had.
And that's because, just remind me on this, Isaac knew who Morgan was from the videotapes that they've been leaving behind. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Now, we've heard a lot about the chemistry on the main The Walking Dead show. What were your impressions to the atmosphere on the set of Fear the Walking Dead?
My impressions to the atmosphere. I mean, it's you drive onto, I call it campus. I always call it campus, but this is it's a ginormous production. Yeah. So when you arrive, it's like showing up to the circus, and there's trucks and there's tents and there's people and there's wagons and there's security, and it's so that's certainly a little bit of a mind, when you arrive, just kind of taking that all in, and like, oh, we are not on a low budget indie today. Yeah. And I've certainly done plenty of those. So just the scale at which they work, you can tell that you're in a different ball game. But in terms of the crew, everyone from hair, makeup, lights, camera, everyone is just as in it to win it as everyone else. And I think that's what makes the show such a huge success, is that everyone knows that they're a part of this team. And in order for the team to be successful, everyone has to play their part. And, you know, adamant professionals across the board. You know, if I had come across an asshole, I don't know that I would tell you that I had, but I can tell you I did not come across one asshole, and there's always one in the group. And if there was, they weren't anywhere near me, because everyone I met was certainly very professional and there to execute a big job.
That's awesome. Now, as far as TV goes, would you say this is one of your shows that have had the biggest budget type of TV show that you've been on?
Certainly, yeah. Yes, without a doubt, this is certainly the highest budget production that I've been involved with. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't even know that they talk about the numbers of what they really spend on making these productions, but I know it's much higher than most anything that I've been a part of.
Now, like you mentioned before, this was shot before the COVID pandemic really went into full gear. Even though the other characters were not in this episode, did you happen to see any of the other main cast members just hanging around, watching, or anything like that?
No, I did not meet anyone else. If there was anyone else there, which they very well could have been, I was not introduced to them, nor did I meet them and say, "Oh my God, you're
so yeah,
Virginia." No, but I had seen enough episodes of the show before arriving there to kind of familiarize myself with who everybody was and where they kind of fit into the story. But I didn't meet anyone.
Okay, gotcha. Now let's talk about Demetrius Gross, who's another great actor, a veteran, like I said. He played the bounty hunter, Emile LaRue. What did you think of his portrayal of that character? For me, that dude was ice cold, and he did it beautifully.
Yeah, he's Demetrius is I hesitate to say he's an ice cold dude, because he's not an ice cold dude at all. But he certainly could be intimidating should you not know who he was, or that he was a big teddy bear. I kind of equate meeting Demetrius to the first time I met Michael Shannon when I worked with him on Shotgun Stories. Kind of a larger than life personality. Michael's a little different because his head is literally 4 times the size of a normal human being's head. And I can say that because Michael and I are friends, but he's like a Macy's Day float. He's got a ginormous head. But Demetrius just, carries himself with such an air, and the moment he opens his mouth and starts talking, you're like, oh God, is he mad at me? What have I done? Is he upset with me? I hope he likes me. But no, really, really nice, down to earth guy, super professional and prepared. And the other nice thing about working on the show was that we were allowed to come in and play. Michael would get whatever he wanted to get out of a scene, and then he always gave us a take of our own to kind of do whatever that we wanted to do, which is, an actor's dream, to be able to get in and show, hey, I know I did what you wanted, but can you just give me a minute? Let me do something that I've prepared here. So that was nice that we got to play around a little bit. And although the only I will say this, here's an inside tip for your fans.
All right.
This show shoots with multiple cameras. There's 3 cameras most of the time, which is pretty unheard of for the most part in television. Just A, because it's so expensive, and B, the amount of crew that it requires. And so most of the scenes, we obviously shot several takes of each, with the exception of the massive zombie execution outside of the dam before we enter the dam. When you have all of the zombies, there's a lot of insert takes and a lot of B-roll that has to be taken. So the day that we shot that, that for whatever reason had taken so much time that when it came time for my coverage of killing the zombies outside of the dam, one take, baby.
Oh yeah,
one take. And the other funny thing is, the first day I arrived on set, I watched this guy, very awesome stunt guy, be made up wearing the same clothes that Isaac's wearing. They gave him the exact same facial hair, the exact same head hair. I mean, the guy looked exactly like me. And I was like, oh, it's the stuntman. I never assumed I would be doing all of these fights myself. I knew I would do a lot of them. I knew I would go through the motions, and I'm glad I did, because I love that stuff. But I just assumed that the stuntman would do a lot of the fighting, and those would be the takes that they would use. The stuntman never fought once on camera.
So he was there just in case as a backup.
He was there in case I broke my leg and fell apart, and so production wouldn't have to shut down, basically. But he such a support to me, and would step aside and walk through some of the fighting with me. But I think if you ask me, the thing that I'm most proud of in that episode, egotistically, would be the fight outside the dam. 23 kills on camera. I think it was actually 39 that we did total. I don't know where the other kills went. They didn't make the cut, but that sequence itself we did in one take.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations. Did it freak you out having all those stuntman walkers around you and makeup coming at you when Michael said action and they were not charging, they're slow paced walkers, but did that how did you get into that moment?
Well, I mean, it's certainly freaky when you see these figures walking towards you. Now, that being said, we've just come from lunch and watched them all on their phones and eating macaroni and cheese. So there is some suspension of disbelief within that. But I think and so much of this is fast paced and fighting for your life and trying to get to the next stage. So you don't really have time to think about it.
Yeah.
You have to kill, and it goes into the brain, and then the biggest part is the pull out, because you get stuck in the skull, and you've got to pull it out. So that was what I learned.
That's awesome. Well, you pulled it off great.
Thanks, man.
When you and Lenny were in that water tower that Emil pulled down, how much of that was actual real water tower? Was any of it CGI? What can you tell us about that scene?
I know that the inside of the water tower was the last thing that I shot. It was the last thing I went back to Texas for. And they had actually built the interior of that water tower on a sound stage. Mm-hmm. And the water tower sat on a hydraulic system. So in the course of the scene, as it was being pulled over by Emil, the hydraulic system would rock the water tower, and everything in there would slide, and we would fall against the side of the water tower. I don't know how much of that they used. They didn't use all of what we shot in there in terms of the fall, and but yeah, I mean, being inside of there, I can't imagine it having felt any more real than it did. I mean, it was certainly safe, and things were padded, and we didn't have to worry about things hitting us. But to be standing and having a conversation with someone on solid ground, and then suddenly feel your world start to shift on its axis.
I mean,
it was pretty intense.
Wow, hydraulics. You would think that was shot doing some fancy camera work, but they wanted the real authentic feel of you guys tipping over. That's amazing to hear. Now, when Rachel, Isaac's wife, is about to give birth, Emil shows up, Morgan tells you to stay inside. What prompts Isaac to leave his wife, who's literally about to give birth, and come out to help Morgan? What's your theory on that?
I think it's a simple theory. I think Isaac knew that Morgan was really the only hope that his family had, that Isaac's family had. Any hope of that baby surviving, any hope of Rachel being able to carry on, because at that point he knew that he wasn't going to live. Mm-hmm. He had already been bit, and it was working its way through his system, and was certainly going to take a turn for the worse sooner than later. So I think that he knew that Morgan was the only opportunity he had to save Rachel and the baby. And so I think that's why he went out to lay his neck out for Morgan.
Awesome. Now, in your almost 20 years worth of professional acting, where would you rank the Fear the Walking Dead experience in your career?
Where would I rank the experience of shooting it?
Yeah, of actually being on the set, the whole thing, the atmosphere, the big budget, compared to other movies. How much fun did you have on the show, and so on?
Oh, I had a blast. I mean, that show is an actor's playground. I mean, to be able to go in there and act against zombies, and at the same time have an intimate scene with an incredible actor, and to know that the CGI is going to be there to back things up, and the special effects, and it's in terms of television, I would rank it certainly at the top. I mean, the chance to work on shows of that caliber, just they don't come along very often, and unfortunately, I think people that do have those opportunities, and for shows that go on for some time, I think they start to take it for granted a little bit, which is unfortunate. Yeah. But I mean, as actors, we're lucky to work at all. So to be able to step into to join the circus for a few weeks and work on that caliber of a production was certainly a highlight.
That's awesome to hear. Okay, now let's talk about this movie that you have coming out, okay?
Sure.
It's called The Dark and the Wicked. Some critics at Fantasia are calling it one of the scariest movies of 2020. So what can you tell us about The Dark and the Wicked?
The Dark and the Wicked, which was also shot in Texas, and I had shot it earlier in the year before I went back to do Fear, near Granbury, Texas, actually. The Dark and the Wicked is the newest film from writer-director Brian Bertino, who brought us The Strangers, The Monster, and basically it's about a pair of siblings who come home to their childhood farm that they grew up on to be with their mother, help their mother while their father, and to say goodbye to their father, who is ailing and bedridden. And suddenly something takes over the childhood home that they have no control over. And it's really freaky. And what's nice about this film is it's going to attract horror fans as well as psychological thriller fans. He's done a masterful job at combining the two. So I think people are going to freak out. So yeah, I'm excited for people to see it.
So it's a paranormal movie.
Well,
I love paranormal movies. Okay, we'll leave that.
A little bit.
All right, now one of your co-stars in that movie is Xander Berkeley, who also was a big character in The Walking Dead for several seasons. He played the character of Gregory. Did you guys at all... Now, you said you shot this movie before you got the fear part, so you didn't know...
I did, yes.
Okay, all right, because I was going to ask if you and Xander exchanged any kind of Walking Dead stories, but give us your take on Xander Berkeley, who, by the way, is going to be a guest on our show here very soon.
Oh, nice. Well, you should definitely talk to Xander about The Dark and the Wicked, because he's incredible in the film, and anyone who is a fan of The Walking Dead or a fan of Xander's, you have to see this film, because his performance in this movie will absolutely blow you away. And he's not in it for a lot of the film, but he's in it enough for you to think about for a long, long time.
I've been a fan of Xander's going all the way back to Air Force One with Harrison Ford. He's a great actor, and he is so versatile.
An adamant professional, and showed up to set, and he was the guy that wanted to do his own makeup and wanted to pick out his own costume, and being that veteran that he was, they obviously let him do it, and to his credit, it certainly worked in the film's favor. So yes, Xander is incredible. We stay in touch, and yes, it was weird after having shot Fear to not still be able to say anything to Xander about having spent all this time with Lenny.
You couldn't even tell Xander, huh?
I couldn't even tell Xander. Yeah, maybe I bet he knows now. He probably knows now.
Well, you know what? I'll message him after the show if he doesn't. Well, you haven't told him since then?
He's a big Twitter guy, and we Twitter message each other all the time. So I'm sure he's seen it.
Yeah.
He's got more important things to do. He's not worried about what I'm doing.
He's a busy guy, I'll tell you that much. Now, you've done some producing and directing in your career. Is that something that you want to further explore down the line as your career progresses?
Producing, most definitely. I have a couple of projects next year that I'll have a hand in bringing to production. Producing certainly interests me. Directing interests me as well. But at this point in my life, I feel like the best place for me to be is in front of the camera for now. Mm-hmm. While I still have my mind, not that you don't need a mind to direct or produce, but if I had to rank, I would want to be an actor first, a producer second, a director third. But
it's good to have options.
There are plenty of opportunities down the road to be able to flex all of those muscles.
Oh, that is awesome. Well, Michael, I want to thank you so much for being here with us. It's been a fascinating chat here with you. If you were to say from the Fear the Walking Dead experience, what is your biggest takeaway from that experience? What would you say that was?
My biggest takeaway from Fear. I don't know. That's a tough one, huh? That is a tough question.
Well, would you say that you are a better person for meeting Michael Satrazemis for it?
Certainly, and I feel like we have formed a friendship there that will last for a long, long time, and I certainly think that about Lenny and Demetrius as well. To be able to work with them in such an intimate way and form those relationships, and then to have a project built kind of around those relationships, I think. That's one of the awesome things about being an actor, is that you have a little capsule of an experience to look back on and
absolutely. And let me tell you, I talk to a lot of Walking Dead fans every day, and you know what I've learned as both a fan and talking with other fans, it's not the length of time that you spend on an episode in a big franchise like the Walking Dead franchise. It's the type of impact that you leave behind. And Isaac's character, your character, left a huge lasting impact, not only in Fear, but to the entire Walking Dead universe. And again, I want to thank you because you did it brilliantly. And everyone I have spoken to wished there was more of Isaac to see, because it would have been fascinating to see what would happen of him. Now, let's say, you know, they're making a Tales of the Walking Dead anthology where they're going to be taking past characters and new characters. Oh, can't say anything about it. All right, well, I hope that we have not seen the last of Isaac. Okay, because anything is possible. Anything is possible, and anyone who has been on the show is fair game to come back on the show. So, Michael, thank you so much for being here with us. It's been an honor. Thank you for that performance you gave us in the premiere. Any final thoughts you want to share?
The only thing I would say is please go check out The Dark and the Wicked. It opens November 6th, and it will open in theaters and drive-ins that are deemed safe, and it will also be available the same day on Shudder. So make sure you check out The Dark and the Wicked. You're going to love Xander Berkeley.
Okay, we're going to love Xander, and I'm sure you do. We're going to love you as well in that, too. And I'm a Shudder subscriber, and I will be watching it on November 6th. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I want to thank our special guest, Michael Abbott Jr., who played Isaac on Fear the Walking Dead, Season 6 premiere. I'll be back on the air again tomorrow night. Stay safe, guys, and until then, remember to stay walking. Good night.